Another essential item we have for any sewing task that we might be engaged in are pins. I've often noticed that sewing is basically taking large pieces of fabric, cutting it into smaller pieces of fabric, and then putting it back together into large pieces of fabric again. But in the middle there, we have these small pieces and we have to have some way to hold them together while we make any adjustments or sew them or glue them or iron them, anything. And so that's why Clover has this really amazing assortment of pins that we can use to do that. The first pin we'll talk about is our flower-headed pins. These come in a lot of different colors and sizes and shapes by different companies, but ours are called flower-head pins. They're flat, they come in 3 different widths. You should always use the finest diameter pin you can, consistent with whatever fabric you're working with. One of the benefits of this pin is that you can see it very easily, but if you're pinning something like eyelets or laces, something like that, this holds them in place much better than a pin that has a very small top on it. You can also lay rulers on top of it. In some cases you can actually even iron on top of it, but you need to make sure that it's iron safe before you do that. Another pin that we have that's used in quilting are our quilting pins. Again, always use the finest pin that you can use consistent with your fabric. So we have 2 different diameters on our pins. We have a fine one. If you're ever quilting and your pin is starting to torque on you or bend a little bit, then you probably need to use the heavier gauge on your quilting pins. If you're doing applique, you have a lot of little curves, a lot of little pieces that you need to attach. We've developed the applique pin, and it's just a little shorter. It's about 3/4 of an inch long, very sharp point, but you can put a lot of them in there, but you don't have all the metal associated with the longer pins. We also have our marble glass head pins. These are great just for general pinning. They have an average, diameter to them. They're colorful, so you can keep track of where you're doing different aspects of your project. We have the silk pins. These are just like the applique pins, but they're just a little bit longer for work with larger pieces of fabric, and are good for silks and finer fabrics. If it's just general patchwork, we have our patchwork pins. Again, two different sizes. Always use the smaller size if you can get away with that. But this is a great pin for putting your patterns onto your fabrics, putting fabric pieces together, waiting to sew them together. A great pin if you're using patterns with your fabric and you want to match the patterns for pockets or pleats or putting sleeves on or anything, are forked pins. And this is really 2 pins hooked together with a loop at the end. So you're not only using your pins to hold the fabric together, but you're using that loop to hold the pins together. So it's a very stable surface for you to sew these projects together to make all these pieces fit permanently. If you're doing some type of knitting, we have what's called forked blocking pins, and these are the same pins as the fork pins. They're just a little larger, and they will actually fit right through your knitted project into some type of batting that holds the whole thing stable while you do your permanent adjustments. But that's the array of Clover pins. As always, we're interested in your thoughts. Please comment below. I'm Steve Butler. That's been Tool School.